Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody, aka the Brady Bunch here in this full, almost all nine boxes filled up style here. This is our Sunday evening bracket rundown show here on the evening of Sunday, February 1st. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. Got David Griggs and John Tytel up top with me, Mike Cha in the center square, Matt Zukowski and John Sleek at his sides, Joby Fortson, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org down the bottom. Uh, wow, we need the Brady Bunch theme, I think. Unfortunately, I don't think I have that on
Dun,
my.
dun,
No, that's
dun.
it's. Oh darn, we don't have that. Man, if
uh,
only we had that sound effect.
but this is the Bracket Rundown show where what we're going to do in this show is actually build a 1 through 68 seed list by consensus, kind of what the NCAA selection committee does over the course of a week, both by selecting team. We're going to select teams and seed them at the same time. They do those as two separate steps. Uh,
Yeah.
Afterwards, after the show's over, we're going to bracket it up. If you look down below, you can see that final bracket. You just ruined the show, so just stop and leave and don't go back. But if you
Yeah,
didn't
you
just
just
ruin
ruined
the
the
show
show.
by looking at it, we're gonna get into that. But first, as we love to do during our bracket rundown shows, we're going to start things off with a little blind resume. Uh, I'm pulling up two resumes as the screen share loads here, and I'll give you all a couple seconds to look at it. But I'm going to ask a few of you. We've got a lot of people on the show tonight. A few of you, who do you like better, left or right? Uh, Matt, let me start with you. You've been on our shows for a couple of weeks here. What do you? I know you're a big metrics guy, so I think I know predictive metrics guy, so I think I know where you're going.
Yeah.
But left or right?
Yeah, I just prefer left, but I mean it's close. And that's like I'll basically see who these teams are, and it's like I probably have them closer than you'd think, but I probably just prefer left.
Okay. Rocco, if you can see them left or right, are you with Matt that the left, because of better predictive metrics, should be the better team?
If they're both in the field, I would seed the left higher.
Okay.
And I actually do have both these teams in the field, and I think they're both really close to where I live, actually.
Okay. Tytel, how
Well,
are you? You.
Well,
Would you go right or would you go left? Because right has that quad one component that left does not have.
Yes, Chad. If you are a quad one person, then the right is certainly for you. But I'm a JNG person and a more wins person and a better overall non-conference strength of schedule person. So I am leaning hard left.
All right. Does anyone want to go right? Throw it out there.
no,
I think it's really close, Chad.
Okay.
I know who the left is. I
The
don't
J
know.
and G does not think it's close, but I actually think it's pretty darn close because I like, my number one criteria is did you beat other teams in the tournament? And yeah, I'm looking. There's three obvious wins against the field on the right, and I see nothing on the left from
A
them.
maybe up there, that neutral
Yeah,
56,
so
maybe.
yeah.
that's a big deal to me. But then there's other components that others have mentioned about like overall record, et cetera. So
Well, it looks like this team just played a really like top five net team on the road yesterday on the left. Who could the team on the left be?
That is a giveaway there, Griggs. The team on the left is
They only lost by
close
8 or 9 points.
Yeah, St. Mary's, and I wouldn't have gotten the other team had Rocco not said that. And don't
Yeah.
apologize, Rocco. That was funny.
Okay.
and who was it, Griggs?
Yeah. It's St. Mary's in California.
You are absolutely correct.
Very
And
close to each other.
I
Yeah.
wanted to bring this up here actually.
I'm James.
Rocco, I think a lot of people, we've all just got kind of putting St. Mary's in our brackets, and I don't know that St. Mary's is safe by any means anymore. When you do a deep dive into this profile, there's not a lot here.
Right. Well, I think, so much of it is a testament to how they schedule in the non-conference. Obviously, none of those teams are in the field right now, but there's so much quad three when you look at St. Thomas, Northern Iowa, Florida Atlantic. Those are all teams they paid money to come to Moraga, much different than Power Five scheduling. You could throw in Arkansas State, North Texas, who were also very good optimal options. Same with Ohio University. So, and Chattanooga. So yeah, they hit on a few of those, they missed on a few of those, and I think that all helps them a lot with non-conference strength of schedule. The fact that they won them all, but unfortunately for them, in their event down in the Battle for Atlantis, both V Tech right now is either barely in or barely out, and Wichita didn't work out. They lost the big one they had with Vanderbilt. And now, I think they're still going to be fine as long as they don't lose an unexpected WCC game. If they can just handle their main business, that would include even, they probably don't want to drop both Santa Clara and Gonzaga in those last two. But as long as they split those last two and hold serve and everything else, they should be okay.
If they lose to Santa Clara again, I think they're in trouble.
Yeah,
I
Santa
agree.
Clara is good though. I mean, they
They'll
really
just be
are.
helping them get in.
Yeah,
That might be the case. Is that might mean Santa Clara's in more than St. Mary's gets kicked out, depending on what's happening on the rest of the bubble, obviously. But
Yeah.
it will move St. Mary's right to that bubble and move Santa Clara right into that bubble, so more than they are even right now. So,
Yeah,
and they're pretty close in my
and
view.
Joby, real quick, the Cal Bears. I mean, that win yesterday at Miami completely,
They're
really
coming
made
on.
this profile really worth looking at.
I agree because it got you a road win against the field, especially. And remember, they beat Stanford. Before Stanford, you remember my final thought last week. Well, we can, erase that from the tapes. But they did beat Stanford away, but it's really this Miami win away, and they're just playing better. Like the Cal team now. I truly, I truly believe they don't lose to Kansas State, for instance. I think
Now,
they beat Kansas State.
now the only problem is that win at Miami was preceded by a loss at a Florida
Of course.
State team that's not sniffing the field. So another interesting trade-off for the Golden Bears.
and they have that elimination game coming up on February 14th. That is in the bylaws. We have confirmed it. If you lose to Boston College, you're not eligible for the NCAA.
Joby's Who's played with fire on that this
Oh,
weekend too.
All right, when you're a three-point shooting team, you go. I think the final was 3 from 28 from three-point land. You still win by 8, but it's
right,
Boston College. Nothing to
let's
write
get-
home about.
Let's get to the seed list. Here it is. This is the list of the 68 teams. What we're going to do is I'm going to call on each of you to give me 4 teams. We'll debate it. If there's a large consensus to make a change, we'll make that change. If there's no large consensus, we'll leave it and we'll move on to the next seed line. Continue all the way until this little counter here in the bottom left-hand corner, at-large bids remaining, becomes 0, and then I'll fill in the rest of the teams at the end. A little new feature this week also. Down the bottom of the screen here in the center, we're going to track how many teams get in from each conference. So it's a little automatic tracker as opposed to me trying to do quick math at the top of my head there.
Yeah, we've never done that before.
Yep.
Wow.
And high tech.
Yeah.
High tech, absolutely.
I mean, we're using computers now.
Matt, I'm going to give you the honor of the 1 seed line. How about that?
All right, this is in order: Arizona, Michigan, Duke, and UConn.
Arizona, Michigan, Duke, and UConn, and especially in the top 4 seed lines here, order is very important because it'll determine a lot in terms of regions and brackets and the like. Let me ask a couple people here. Mike, you're our Michigan guy. Is he right to have Michigan number 2 overall?
I don't have a problem with it. I personally have 3 behind Duke, but I
I
mean,
did too.
you can make a case for either one. But the consideration is that Michigan picked up 2 top 5 wins this past week. That's why they're even being considered for the number 2 overall seed. Otherwise, they would not have had a chance to be this high. But 2 top 5 wins in a 4-day span gives them serious consideration.
Tytel, do we also have to consider, though, that Michigan probably has the worst loss of any of these teams we're looking at?
Sure, but I think we also have to consider that like UConn might not lose again, and their only loss again was to Arizona without Mullins and Reed. Like, I don't have a problem with Matt's order. Certainly not with his grouping of 4. I think he's right on the money, but I'm telling you, like, UConn might not lose again for a while.
And I think they're 1 loss away from being off the 1 line.
Yeah. Well, everybody is. That's why they're on the 1 line. Teams don't lose.
Well, one of the
Yeah.
big differences here is if UConn falls off the 1 line, there's not as many opportunities in the Big East for them to get back up like the Big Ten teams will get to.
And Rocco, is there really anybody else that's even in debate for the 1 line at this point? Because I kind of think there's a drop off now after number 4.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a drop off. I mean, there's an argument for Illinois a little bit, but they have the 3 losses. So But I think if you're watching all these games, which I know some of the committee members do, I don't think all of them do, but I think some of them do. Illinois is clearly a better team than UConn right this minute, but obviously UConn's got the resume and the pedigree. You can't really kick them off. So, but I've got my eye big time on Illinois because they might be my pick to win the national title right now.
You just stole my thunder for I think sometime in the next couple of weeks here I was going to say we should do some Final Four picks and they are the team that I'm keeping the same amount of an eye on as you are. I think I'm loving the way this Illinois team is playing. I'm absolutely with you on that. But let's go ahead. I'm not hearing too much complaints about this one line, so let's just let's just jump right over to the two line. Why don't you give me the next four teams up?
Illini sound good to me. The team they beat, Nebraska, sounds good to me. No shame in losing to a great team. I think Iowa State's demolition today puts them here. And then I really thought Sparty had it, but I'm hearing a lot of love for Houston on ye old internet. So I will go with ye old Houston, who might never lose a home game again. They've won, I think,
Wow.
49 to 50 now or something insane.
Griggs, you agree with that? You agree with Houston being on this line?
Yeah, I do. This can't be right. My top eight was the exact top eight as it appears on the screen now, and I don't think that's ever happened.
Okay, well,
That's what I was wowing about.
Shows
Now,
we got a lot of problems.
yeah, it means we got a lot of problems, and we may want to examine this again. What's wild about this is that while the 4-1 seeds are what they are, I do think Illinois and Nebraska, even with Nebraska losing two straight games, are still good enough to get up to the one line, and they have the chances to do it because they're in the same conference as somebody that's up there and with each other. And it just goes to show you that essentially there's of the six solid teams that have a shot at the one line, three are in the Big Ten. Big Ten's pretty good this year.
well, Matt, let me ask you, is there one other team that we briefly touched on in our blind resume in a way that should be here? I mean, does Gonzaga not need some consideration here on the two line?
Some consideration, like I think eventually they might be able to get Nebraska's spot. I think, and I guess being a metrics person, I think Nebraska, like they're not going to fall off the cliff or anything, but I think they can fall another seed line or two as the season goes on, and that might be Gonzaga's spot to get, but like not for now. I think Nebraska should be over them for now.
I guess what I look at though, when I look at this Gonzaga resume, Rocco, let me ask you, they one loss and it was to the number one net team on a neutral court.
Yeah.
Forget about the score. I mean, they've beaten everybody else they played.
Right. Yeah, and I think the hard part with Gonzaga is they don't play in a super conference like the others.
Yeah.
So they're always going to be in this quandary a little bit for the committee. We've seen it go their way before. We've seen it not go their way before. Same with when Houston was in the American. It's very similar. So I think in this case, there's a world where Gonzaga's a two seed. You look at the one that I compared them with was the Cyclones. The Cyclones, I think, can be picked apart a lot because they lost to a non-tournament team in Cincinnati. None of these other teams have lost to a non-tournament team. And Gonzaga it has been perfect outside of the loss to Michigan. So you look at the resume numbers, Gonzaga's got the Cyclones beat there. You look at the net, Gonzaga's got the Cyclones beat there. So I went with Gonzaga as a two seed and knocked Iowa State to the three. But it's close, and I see the argument for the Cyclones as well.
Yeah.
I
Now,
have Iowa State as my top two seed.
let me ask you this, Rock, because everybody sort of looks at this differently. I think the selection committee, I'm not as good at guessing them as you are, as Joby is, and certainly not as Titel. But my guess would be that the committee would place Gonzaga higher. In fact, maybe even in the middle of the two line at this point. I think the committee would seed them high. If for no other reason, they seemingly always do that. And like you said, they have one loss, or like somebody said, to a team that's not just on the one line, but high on the one line.
Yeah,
But
I mean
are you
reality
trying
is,
to guess the committee, or do you think Gonzaga is actually better than Iowa State?
I actually don't know. I would actually maybe lean Iowa State a little bit,
I would, as would I.
and they're fourth and fifth in the net, so like they're both very worthy from
Yeah.
that one perspective. But I do think the fact that Gonzaga has they've been able to get through this whole season with only the one loss. They've been able to get through these injuries without getting a scathe. Braden Huff's still out. They won without him last night. They've been winning without him. They won a couple big games without EK. So all of that's pretty impressive. And yeah, I agree with you. Like if you had these 4 2 seeds together, like you should probably have Gonzaga seated above Nebraska after today as well.
Well, you
Because
should if
Nebraska
you're
from a
trying to
power,
guess the committee, but that's
yeah,
not what we're doing here.
right.
We are the committee.
Nebraska from a power perspective is going to be worse than Gonzaga on every metric.
Let's go. Let's go ahead and move on to the 3 line. Mike, why don't I go to you now and give me the next 4 teams. Obviously, Gonzaga under consideration, but you can give me any 4.
Okay, Michigan State, Gonzaga, Purdue, and I'll go with Vanderbilt.
Wow, I think you were reading off of my personal seed list, but so I'm not going to personally disagree with you, but let's get some other opinions here. Titel, what do you think about that?
I like it a lot. Sparty for sure. I like them all. I mean, I think that if Texas Tech had not stubbed their toe at UCF, they would definitely be here, but they did. And BYU stubbed their toe in Kansas. So I think it's a case of other people falling off the 3 line. So I will go with no veto.
Yeah, I still like both those teams. Texas Tech has a glaring omission that you typically you typically see protected seats have. They have not won a true road game against a team that's solidly inside the field, and they still haven't after the loss at UCF. But they have won a rather impressive game away from home against someone that's in the field. And is that enough to offset that? When I still, maybe I need to just get off of Texas Tech's nuts. They were my preseason pick to win, and I still think they're really good. They certainly didn't look like a 3 seed on Saturday, but I still think that they are overall.
Uh, yeah, I do agree that I think they're not quite on the 3 line right now. One more opinion, real quick. Joby, are you okay with these teams?
Yeah, I actually had a team we haven't mentioned who did not stub their toe against BYU this weekend. I think Kansas
Ooh.
problems. If Peterson's playing, I know that's a big if because hell, he didn't even play most of the second half. But if Peterson's playing, they're a 3 seed. I really do believe that, and they've now delivered. I like this BYU team a lot, and that's an impressive win, even if it's at Allen Fieldhouse. I'm very much on where Kansas is going forward. And they have accomplished some great stuff. Iowa State, who's in this field, BYU, Tennessee won't be far from it. And away from home, they do have a tournament win. NC State will be on our field. It's not a protected seed level or something, but they have at least checked the box. And so I'm very much I think the Jayhawks are someone to really watch out for coming down the stretch.
Yeah, Peterson was not there for the Duke or UConn loss. Oh, by the way, at Texas Tech tomorrow night. What a game, but
Fun game, and that'll determine a lot. Obviously, if Kansas needs to win that game to hold it, Texas Tech gets it if Kansas can't pull off what would be an upset. But hey, I'm putting pressure on them, and we'll see if Peterson plays after sitting most of the second half. That's going to be a big factor.
I want to ask everybody this. Did anyone else other than myself, I actually like Florida more than Vanderbilt.
I looked at both because I know Florida won at their place and fairly comfortably won at their place, but I still like Vandy's overall resume a little better.
Yeah.
You have twice as many losses on Florida's side, Griggs, and a lot of that was in the early season when they weren't playing as well.
Look at where 3 of them were and who they were to.
But I say more. Look at the Missouri and the TCU losses, which I don't think Vanderbilt has anything that compares to that.
They don't. Yeah.
And in Florida, certainly, Griggs, they're kind of that old top 40, analysis. Hey, they're wherever we put them with a bullet. I mean, they're playing great.
Well, they had a lousy
as
November.
Someone who is a 4-seed-ish fan right now, around there, I'm looking over my shoulder at them and hoping they don't bump us.
Okay.
I will say this for Florida. I do like the G League dropout chant that they had for Beniaco, I don't think that by itself warrants a protected seat.
I do. That was why I picked them. That
I'll tell
chance.
you what, I don't hear enough love to make any moves off of what we did in the 3 line either. So we're cruising right along here. Rocco, why don't I go to you for the 4 line? Next 4 teams up.
Yeah, next 4 teams up for me. I think we're on the right track. I have Kansas, Texas Tech, Florida, and BYU.
All right.
Florida and BYU. Matt, what do you think?
I like 3 of them, and this is one here. This is definitely not being a homer because I have financial incentive on BYU doing well, but I'd actually have Virginia over BYU, not by a ton, but I would have Virginia over them.
So that's the question. Mike, what do you think? Should Virginia be in over BYU? I won't ask Joby because he's a little biased, but
Oh, this is close. Virginia over BYU?
Yeah,
I would say no.
but
Very
really,
close, but I have BYU slightly ahead of Virginia.
Yeah.
Griggs, I gotta go to you on this question
Very
because
close.
I think Virginia has a David Griggs profile for quad 1A road wins. BYU doesn't have a single quad 1A win.
Yeah, they do. Now, I mean, BYU, you look at their losses, a very close loss at Connecticut. They fell behind by 20 to Kansas, came back, nearly won at Texas Tech. And Virginia, I think their profile is better. I think their team is a little bit better, but I still like BYU just because I don't like Joby Fortson. So I would have BYU up here.
Titel. Virginia or BYU? Should we make a swap?
No, it's close, but I will go with the Big 12 team over the ACC team.
Okay, just a quick look here.
Who are you, Zach?
Yeah.
We have 6 Big 12 teams and 5 Big 10 teams. And interestingly, though, we just put 3 Big 12 3 of those 6 Big 12 teams here on the 4 line. So bracketing is going to be a nightmare for all the rules on the top 4 lines. But really, 2 SEC teams barely, and 1 Big East, 1 ACC so far.
Yeah.
Well, we could move BYU down and eliminate one of the headaches.
It might be tempting by the time we get there, but instead, Joby,
There's
why don't
a
I?
Sunday situation they're stuck in, and all of a sudden you gotta move.
Joby, why don't I go to you for the 5 line here and let you put your who's in the field?
Well, at number 16, I have Virginia, and number 17, I have BYU.
So do I.
You'll get Virginia 17, but give me 3 more after them.
And then a mix of ACC SEC line, I guess. North Carolina, Tennessee, who I know is higher than most, but I really like this profile.
I like the pick.
And this one I don't like as much, but as of recent, but Alabama. Arkansas's law. Both Arkansas and Alabama law.
Florida's already
I
in
like
the-
Alabama's profile a little.
Okay,
Why-
let me take 2 seconds here on Alabama before it. Just so everyone knows, we will be putting Alabama in this field. I know there's people that don't want to vote for Alabama in the top 25 poll or put them in the brackets because of the Bediako situation, which I think it's ridiculous that the kid is playing, or man is playing, or elderly senior is playing, whatever you want to call him. But I do think that for our purposes here, we need to put Alabama where they belong based on their profile. But
You
go
can't
ahead, Chris.
invalidate an entire body of work for what Alabama's done, but you can certainly put an asterisk on the Missouri game, which is their only win since he's returned.
Yeah, they've been blown out. They might have to vacate those blowouts.
They
there is an SEC
gave up 72 points in the paint today to Tennessee or to
I don't
Florida.
know
I'm
how
sorry.
this. Yeah, there's a SEC team with a bloated record that's been on a rampage really since mid-December that is not in the rankings, despite doing all of that and being in first place. And they've won some big games recently, including a really impressive win over Georgia over the weekend, which was a lot more impressive than anything Alabama's done ever since they got the guy from the NBA. What don't people like about Texas A&M? That is a really strong profile. I had them on the 5 line. I think they're being way undervalued, not just by us at Oops HD, but just across the board.
I have them on top of my six line personally, but Rocco, what do you think? Should A&M be getting five line consideration? First place team in what some people claim is the best conference in the country.
Yeah, it's interesting because resume wise, they're still struggling in the 7-8 area. I look at the strength of resume this morning, they're 28th and they're 29th in the WAB. So they're in the 7-8 range from that perspective. Their power numbers are even worse. I hate that it comes down to all that stuff because all the points you made to me, I value more. Winning their league, picking up big wins, playing extremely well the last 6 weeks. But a couple of the earlier results in the year still matter, and
Yeah.
I think they're stuck towards the 7 line, unfortunately.
Well, is what happened. They had that high-profile game at Oklahoma State, and everybody that turned it on was just like, "Man, Texas A&M stinks." And I think that it's just worked its way into everyone's subconscious that, while
Mhm.
they did in fact stink during the first week of the season, they haven't really stunk since.
Correct. They
They're
haven't.
also extremely backloaded on their conference schedule, though. You look at
Right.
Alabama, Florida, Vandy on the road, Arkansas on the road, and Texas and Kentucky at home to finish out.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they
So
they,
five
they
of
went into
their
Georgia, and this is a good Georgia team. They went on the Georgia's floor and just curb stomped them.
It's a good Georgia
the
team,
other
not a great Georgia team. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Rocco.
to Stalika's point, they're 7-1 in the SEC, but 5 of the 7 are against non-tournament teams. So they're only 2-1 in SEC tournament level games. So they have Alabama, Florida, Mizzou, Vandy all in a row coming up.
Matt, are we going to live with Joby's line here then? Virginia,
The
North
one
Carolina,
I'm going to
Tennessee,
throw out there
Alabama.
is St. John's.
Instead of who?
I would have instead of
Okay.
Alabama.
Okay. So let's hold off on A&M for now because Griggs, I don't think you're going to
What about Arkansas?
sell anybody. But let's take a look first of all at St. John's. Matt, you want to make the St. John's case that they belong here instead of the Tide?
Just I think a very solid. I mean, OAR 21. So like it's one of those. Everything is pretty solid with them, and this is kind of the range 5-6 where when everything is solid.
I got one problem with Matt when you compare these resumes head to head. Is that Alabama won at St. John's?
Yeah.
And I think when you run
Oof.
into head to head and it's a road win, I mean, it's hard for me to go that
It's
way.
one of the, well, 8-4 against the top two teams versus 9-7 though. I think that's
Cross country scoring, Chad. You have to remember cross country
Oh,
scoring.
cross-country
You have 12 voters in the room, and it doesn't. I mean, if somebody has multiple people at St. John's well above Alabama, that'll be the only thing that matters versus if they're not too good.
I could see on the scrubbing process they do at the end, though, a
That's
motion to
true.
switch
That
them
is
for
true.
this very reason.
That's a good point. I like
There's
that.
also a pretty bad loss that needs to get swept under the rug as well if you're the Johnnies.
That's a little bit of bad loss. Titel, should we maybe then consider Arkansas instead of the Tide?
We should, but I still like the Tide because you don't have to like it, but like every single loss they've had has been a health issue or an eligibility issue. Bediako missed most of their losses. Allen and Holloway missed the Tennessee game. Like they have excuses, and when healthy, they're better than these other teams we've mentioned, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I think they're missing the David Griggs road win against a tournament team. But the neutral court win over Texas Tech is very, very good. Um, so I think I haven't heard enough love to make the swap. It's kind of like our cross country scoring here. There's been three teams that people want instead, but nobody that's come to a consensus. So maybe we leave the Tide there.
Well, my consensus was Texas A&M. I came to that consensus.
I was going to go to Griggs next, but instead let's go to Stalika.
Okay, let's go ahead and get Arkansas and St. John's in the field right here. I can agree on those two. I think the next two, well, Kentucky, I would go ahead and put in after even. I know they had the bad loss at Vandy, but when you win at Arkansas to come back after they did, I think that's a case to be made. And instead of putting in Texas A&M, I'm going to put in a team that has a win on the road against the Aggies, along with two teams that are now protected seeds. Give me the UCF Knights.
Ooh, UCF coming in there higher than we've seen them all season.
I had them. Wow. Not this
Titel,
high.
is UCF a 6 seed now with that on that 3 game winning streak, including the Texas Tech win?
No, they are certainly putting together a nice little resume, and they did almost beat Arizona. I give them a lot of credit for being a good team. I still think that when healthy, Louisville or Clemson would be UCF.
Yeah, Mike, what about that? Maybe it shouldn't be UCF. Maybe it should be Team Link. Let's start with Louisville.
Yeah, I definitely have teams like Louisville and Clemson ahead of UCF. UCF did pick up a nice win over the weekend, but I think 6 is too high for them.
Uh, Matt, should it be Louisville? Should it be Clemson if we're going to bounce UCF?
I do Louisville, and actually, I'd consider a different ACC team than Clemson. I'd have NC State, but I have Louisville at the top of the ones. But I think NC State's in this range also.
Okay, well, let's hold off on the NC State then because it seems to be Louisville is the preferred pick I've heard so far. Maybe one more quick opinion here, Joby. You being our ACC guy, is Louisville? Maybe
I
we're
think
kind of
it
looking at
is,
three
and
ACC teams here.
I do think it's Louisville, and yes, John, you'll love this element. Malik Brown being a very key component. I think that's where Titel would say various such and such missed, such and such missed. I mean, he is a difference maker. It doesn't mean wins against them without him are less important, but he makes this team more of the Final Four preseason prognostication that many had than without him, plain and simple. And he is now back.
All right,
I
Greg.
think my main
And they
issue.
show it in their results. And the results show it. So
Stalika.
I was going to say my main issue with Louisville, while they do have 2 wins against that are probable tournament teams in Kentucky and SMU, Kentucky's the highest rank that they had put in there. The reason I had UCF was because Kansas and Texas Tech are both protected seeds, even if they're not getting love from our group here.
I think Indiana's a tournament team also.
Yeah. And I know what Matt's argument here. If you look at the predicted metrics on Louisville, they're 11 in the BPI. UCF isn't even in that ballpark.
Yeah, Louisville's not very good away from home, but they're good enough. I didn't have them this high.
The
I
win
had
at
them
the win
a
at
line
Cal is
lower.
getting better and better.
Yeah, I had them a line lower, but like whether you have them at the bottom of the 6th or in the middle of the 7th, it's pretty close. Like,
Griggs, I'll go ahead. I'll give you the 7 line here.
okay, well, I mean, 2 lines too late. I have Texas A&M, Clemson, who we bantered around about. A team that hasn't come up yet is Georgia. They're not somebody that I had under consideration. I had them on the 7 line. And another team that hasn't come up yet under consideration, I had Villanova. So I had all of these teams, yes, ahead of UCF.
And NC State.
And NC State, yes.
Okay.
I thought I had NC State high compared to where everyone else would have them. Apparently not.
No, I wouldn't have had them this high either, but I just brought them up because they're a team that's been mentioned. But Rocco,
Yeah.
how wrong is the puppet here? Texas A&M, Clemson, Georgia, Villanova on the 7 line.
3 of the 4 are acceptable, but
Okay.
I think George is much closer to the cut line than the 7 line. I mean, they're just, come on now. They just lost at home again. I think when it comes to this area, I would have had them in the 6s right now. And I normally would just do the committee thing, but this team I just saw right here. I'm still in St. Louis on Friday night.
Yes.
This
Love it.
team is unbelievably good. And they're better than a lot of the teams already on the board. I already know that. I've seen a lot of the teams on the board in person already. I've seen St. Louis. St. Louis is better. So St. Louis needs to be in here somewhere because they are extremely dangerous. I think they're a legitimate Sweet 16 team and maybe even a Final Four contender.
For what it's worth, Rocco, they were my next team, but you could only put 4 up there.
Let me get a couple of opinions here. Mike, how about those Billikens? Only 1 loss, and the predictive metrics actually really like this team, which is surprising for a non-power
Yeah.
conference team.
Yeah, I definitely like St. Louis in the 7 line. My only concern for them is they don't have a win over an NCAA at-large quality team, and they're not really going to get that chance being in the Atlantic 10. But this is where maybe the eye test shows that they are a legitimate top 20, top 25 team. They just the metrics in terms of quality wins don't support that. But This as a 7 seed, in the 7 seed team, this is a solid team.
Yeah, Tytel, isn't that kind of why we have some of these predictive metrics so we can get a better judge on some of these teams that don't play that schedule?
Sure. I mean, I want as many metrics as possible. I love data to pull from. And I agree that if this is a good combination because I was going to go after St. Louis's strength of schedule, but compared to Georgia's non-conference, it's actually close. But I got to take issue with my friend Rocco. Like, they're good. I don't think they're making the Final Four. And
He
my
said Sweet
question is, do
16.
you know how many tournament games Josh Schertz has ever won?
He hasn't coached in any.
Thank you.
He should have
So
2
what
years
does
ago.
that mean?
Yeah, he should have 2
You know
years
that-
ago.
Means
do
he's
you know-
not going
do
to
you
the
know-
Final Four as a first-year tournament coach. No way.
Mhm. You know
Sure
that
he
going
is.
into
The coaches
Hey,
get
Dusty
complimentary
May did.
tickets.
Hey, would you know that going into last year's tournament, Todd Golden had 0 tournament wins, and he won the whole thing?
Not with St. Louis's roster, but yes.
Right. Well, I mean, fair enough.
All right.
He is going to the Final Four. It's where the coaches' convention is. Of course,
That's
he's
right.
going to be there.
All right. Salika, we making that switch though? St. Louis for Georgia?
Yeah, I would definitely switch them up because Georgia, I wouldn't have in probably until about the 9 line, though, because all the dogs have now are probably 2 wins against tournament teams, and now they have maybe 2 losses against non-tournament teams, but that's debatable depending on where we put Texas.
Right. All right. So it looks like we got Georgia, UCF, NC State, 3 teams under consideration. I agree. I personally agree with Salika completely about Georgia. That groups is way too early on them. Matt, circle back around to you again for the 8 line.
So I have NC State. I do not have the other 2 teams though. Instead, I have Iowa.
Who's putting the
That-
finishing touches on Auburn as we record this? Yep.
Oregon, yeah.
Mhm.
I
And
wish they
that-
were playing Auburn.
I do have Auburn.
Speak of the devil.
And that actually, I have Utah State.
Utah State.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Joby,
Yeah.
I gotta let you take your shot at the Mountain West. Is he a little early here on this Utah
Way
State
too
pick?
early. I mean, when we talk about beating teams in the tournament, just throw up the whole conference. And UNLV lost their tournament game because Stanford's no longer in. It's just, yeah, they just no. I mean, Utah State should be an at-large team. I'll give it that, but no, not as an 8. I mean, not I have them. My personal views versus the J and G, I have them even lower. But the even the J and G, which likes the Mountain West, remember that, has them as a high 9,
Adam is a 9.
and that's as high as I can possibly even stomach them.
Tytel, where should we be going here? If we don't go Utah State?
I will continue to be the good Big 12 representative and go with UCF over Utah State.
I agree.
I have UCF only
Agreed.
1 spot below them, so it's not a huge difference for me at them 32 and 33.
One more opinion here, maybe. Rocco, UCF in here on the 8 line. Let's hold off Utah State for a little bit.
Yeah, I have
Maybe.
UCF. I have UCF higher.
Yeah. All right. That makes it pretty. And real quick here, let me get who's that? That was Matt Slide. Griggs. Is there anybody else here? Were the NC State, Iowa, Auburn picks all okay here?
I thought so. I'm not big at all on Iowa, but when I did this, it was before they've gone out. They've gone a couple road wins. I said I'd start to warm up to them once they did that. They've done that, and while Oregon's not good, they went out there and they beat them decisively.
That will be another tier 2 win. It'll be
yeah.
their second best road win now. And the
And-
win at
and, I
Indiana
mean-
looking a lot better. We're going to be talking
Yeah,
Indiana soon.
at
Yeah.
Indiana,
That's true. That
yeah.
helps a lot.
and they've got another one, a big one coming up later in the week at Washington. And if they can win that one decisively, Oregon's good. I had them lower, but I cannot just continue to beat them up and get away with it because they're starting to play better and you're actually seeing evidence of it. And you made a good point, which I don't want to give you credit for because I don't like you and I don't like giving you credit for stuff. But that's why we have the other metrics to determine good teams, and I was pretty high in that.
All right. Tytel, I want to go to you for the 9 line here. We have Georgia and Utah State under consideration.
Let's put them in both
Okay.
in that order. I like it. Let's get SMU in here. They've beaten A&M. They've beaten North Carolina. They've won on the road at Wake. They've lost without Boopy Miller to Duke on the road. So I think that their resume in totality is looking good. And then I think I want Whiskey in here, and I want to go to Stalika because it could be a situation where they have the win over Michigan and nothing else. Have we ever seen a team where their only win over the field is against the top of the field like that?
Well, that's their only surefire win. UCLA, that's going to be pretty iffy, but if we do get the Bruins in, they're staying at the Dayton Holiday Inn.
Joby, you have an answer to his question?
Didn't Temple do
Beat Houston.
something like this a few years ago?
When they
And-
beat Houston?
Yeah, and they actually did not get in because the rest of the resume, but they were under I remember it's like how much can that, I think it was Houston, Rocco, how much can that pull you across the line? And for most of our bracket shows, they were in because the body of work, as a percentage, hey, well, they got this big win as a percentage,
Yeah.
and then it just dissipated, and they just couldn't get another. They couldn't beat, Memphis or whoever, they just couldn't do it. And they had opportunities at the time. But that, as I remember, and that was about 3 years ago, as I remember, maybe longer, but I apologize. It's obviously when the
Yeah,
Americans.
I remember that year.
Mike, what do you think of his four teams here? Georgia, Utah State, SMU, Wisconsin. Did you get them right?
Yes, the teams that are in the 8 line, I had them as 9, so you just basically do a little switcheroo, but I'm really good with the 9 line.
You're really good with the 9 line. One more opinion here, maybe. Stalika, you really good with his 9 line?
The only other team I think that could potentially have a case would be St. Mary's, so I have, as Titel would say, no veto on this line.
I'll put St. Mary's under consideration. I gave my opinion on them at the start of the show by including them in a blind resume against a team we haven't mentioned yet. But Rocco, you're up for the 10 line.
Yeah, I mean, I would have had St. Mary's and USC on the 9 because USC did win at Wisconsin in a big win.
And a huge win over Rutgers. Come on.
And a big win. But outside of that, I guess the others okay. I did have Georgia sneak in as a 10, but I'm holding my nose with their 44 WAB. They could easily slip pretty far in an actual committee. I also would throw Indiana in this mix now.
Yes.
They had a
love it.
good week. I mean, there are good weeks and bad weeks. I think Indiana had a pretty decent week.
And
I think
don't kill me on this one, but
Yes, do it.
tell
Do
the
it.
whole damn world this is Bear territory, the Cal Bears.
Oh no,
Ooh.
no.
Cal above the first 4 even. That was
Yes.
I thought I was going to be making a case for them in the first 4 later.
No.
Wow,
No, I
okay.
thought you were
Baby,
going.
they are in.
I was hoping
West
you were
Coast
going.
bias. West
Rocco.
Coast bias.
How do you explain Indiana then?
Yeah, I mean they won on the West Coast, so like it's the West Coast bias.
They won in Coral Gables.
Let's
I
Matt.
should also just to add a
Yeah.
nugget on Cal. Part of this is and I don't want to mention teams that haven't been mentioned too much, but there's another team in California that's going to come up. They've beat them. They've actually beat 2 of the teams that are coming up on the list, including the Coral Gables team. So when you start comparing them all together, you have to you don't have to, but you can see them getting scrubbed above those 2.
Yeah, I'll throw UCLA and Miami under consideration here because you sort of mentioned them. But Matt, what do you think? St. Mary's, USC, Indiana, and Cal on the 10 line.
I'd have Miami here somewhere. Maybe even still above. I think it's might have above Cal. I'm not gonna. I know that was in Miami, but it's still a 1-point game. I'm not gonna swing an entire season over that just yet. And the other side of that is the right Miami, John. The other one, maybe the line or two.
Yeah, I guess. Let's see who else. Stalika. Is maybe Rocco right because the 2 teams we're comparing Cal to are 2 teams they've beaten.
Cal is going to be an interesting case study. Yes, they do now have a road win against Miami, also a neutral court win against UCLA. But I think the other problem is, I think Cal, if I'm reading this correctly, they now have 2 losses against teams that are outside the field and probably well outside the field now with Kansas State and Florida State.
They're tier 2. They're not tier 3, which we've put a few tier 3 losses in.
But I think not having Mother Miami in this point, not to use Titel's pun, but I'm just going to say it's a travesty and a shamrockery.
Oh, okay.
Well, this whole thing is a travesty and a sham and a mockery. It's a Travis shamrockery.
What's that from?
That was a Bob Odenkirk Bud Light commercial years ago. It was hysterical. But anyhow, Titel.
Trav Shamrock.
Titel, St. Mary's USC Indiana Cal. We living with it.
We're not.
Ooh.
I just don't see Cal. Like, they're so close, Rocco. Like, they had 3 wins in their grasp, and if they win, I think 2 of those 3 they're in. But like, those losses are on their resume. I would rather see either UCLA or Miami, and I'll let either of you choose because I prefer either of those to Cal.
Is the solution here to actually put Miami here, but put the other Miami here?
I would not veto that. I would love to see a situation where the 2 Miamis face each other in Dayton, if that's possible. But yes, they're both resumes are around there.
Rocco, what about that? The undefeated Redhawks. Maybe if we're going to bump Cal down, we put them in here.
I just can't forecast it with a 90th Ken Palm ranking. It's just it's not realistic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with these recent committees.
I have an idea. Joby's gonna love New Mexico.
Oh, all right, Rocco. If you're going to say that Miami, which is true, Miami of hurricane level does not have a win against the field, don't come to me with any of those 2 Mountain West teams left. Then, I mean,
I have San Diego State out.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
I'm an equal. I'll hit the
Me too.
ACC team and jettison them, but you got to jettison those Mountain West teams.
I have the Aztecs.
Their wins are awful.
The Aztecs are
That's awful. New Mexico, that's awful. Santa Clara is the best they have.
New Mexico Highlands might be making the D2 field.
Yeah. A win at VCU is pretty good for New Mexico. I would
we do have to move on. And while there's been a lot of hate on Cal here, there's not been a consensus on who could possibly replace him. So
anyone,
I'm calling as the tiebreaker. I'm going to leave Rocco's team right there.
Oh my God!
I'm fine with that.
It's just a Trav shamrockery.
The great J&G support, fellas.
And the J&G likes him there, 53. Okay, let's who's up next here?
I think I am.
Now let's go to Mike. Why don't you give me? We're down to getting towards the end of the at-large field. Why don't you give me the next 2 teams up?
Okay, next 2 teams. Let's see. Slim pickings. No, not
We have
you.
UCLA, Miami, Ohio, and New Mexico under consideration.
Okay, Indiana's already in. Yeah, this is slim pickings.
I think we should send the field here personally, but we can't do that.
Miami of Florida and UCLA.
Miami and UCLA in that order, by the way, because in that order, Miami avoids the first 4, and UCLA goes to the first 4. Is that the order you want?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Stalika, we good with that?
I'm going to really hate myself for doing this. I cannot justify Miami, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to put Sean Miller's boys in. Give me the Texas Longhorns instead of the Canes, because at least Texas has shown they now have, I think by my count, 4 wins against tournament teams, NC State on neutral court, Alabama on the road, and they have beaten Vandy and Georgia on the 40 acres now.
Does somebody want to support Salika's case for Texas, who I have as my 9th team out? And I think Rocco probably has about the same spot.
That's about where I got him too.
I actually have UCLA and Texas at this spot. And sorry to repeat, it's what Stalika said. They have started to amass a nice little set of wins against the field. And they have a couple of stinkers, but they have more wins against the field than stinkers. Let's go to the tape of who they lost to in that
Joby,
Tier 1.
they have 4 wins of field. I get that. And other than a win in Oklahoma, they have no other wins of note at all. Their next best, they beat Maryland Eastern Shore. Want to count that as a field win?
I mean, but they're
No.
but then they have the losses in question are 1 seed, 1 seed, 5 seed, 5 seed, 7 seed, 4 or 5 seed, A&M top half of the field.
Arizona State,
But
Mississippi
then they
State
have
at
two
home.
bad ones. I look at it as four really good ones versus two bad ones. That's a nice ratio. If we want to get into, oh, well, they don't have really a lot of wins total against the field and all that stuff and putting it up. Well, let's just go to St. Louis's resume then. I like St. Louis too, but St. Louis hasn't collected a lot either. But they don't have 4 tournament wins. I'm not saying they're St. Louis. St. Louis, we seeded St. Louis correctly. I'm just using it as a stalking horse.
Rocco, can you put them right on the Texas Longhorns?
I can't yet just because of the record. But I agree that the wins are good, and if they can fix the record over time, they do have non-tournament games with Ole Miss and South Carolina coming up. They would be in with 2 wins there, and they also have an LSU and Oklahoma home game later. So they have a lot of all they need to do is work on their record. If their record balances out, they're going to easily be in. Right now, it doesn't balance, and that's really all it comes down to when you have that many games that are opportunities.
Matt, should we go with Miami, UCLA in that order here then?
Yeah, that's why I think I like them in the field in that. I like New Mexico probably a little more than them, but let's get it moving and we'll debate Mexico next.
Okay.
I'm going to put on my jacket because I'm getting a lot of freezing cold takes on these two teams.
Wow.
Joby, why don't you give me the next 2 teams?
Okay, well, you heard. I'm going to go with the popular pick for this crowd and say the Red Hawks.
Okay.
Last time we
No.
said it. And yeah, the Texas Longhorns. I mean, you
Oh
heard
my
it.
God.
You heard my arguments for it, and I'll just let it stand from that.
There's a team that we're missing.
Well, Griggs, the only other team we've mentioned so far is New Mexico. So if we're not going to put Texas in, it's not going to be from New Mexico instead. Who would we put in there?
Well, who should we put in? It's Belmont. They're better than Miami. And pull them up. They're objectively, under every measurement, I think, better than Miami. Like,
They lost to
they're
Southern
9-1 in true road games. And when you look at winning at Northern Iowa, at UC Irvine, big at Middle Tennessee, we're talking about beating Ole Miss at home. You know what's way, way, way more impressive than that? Winning those 9 road games. And this is just a really good team. And you're holding your nose with some of those losses. Their losses were by 1 point in overtime. And,
good, Griggs. They got pretty much the same garbage sub 300 strength of schedule on both of these teams. And by the way, Miami has a 22-game winning streak.
yeah,
And they played 22 games.
yeah, and Belmont's won. I think the wins that Belmont has are harder to win.
Well,
I think
I'll
it's
tell you-
really hard to go to Northern Iowa, UC Irvine.
I'll tell you what. Putting Belmont in doesn't get us the at-large field complete.
No,
So
but
I'll leave them under
it
consideration
puts them
there.
on the line where they should go.
And really, once again, the question here is Texas in? Or are we putting a different team in?
We're putting
Titel,
Belmont.
are we leaving Texas in or are we putting somebody else in?
We're leaving them in only because
Okay.
when you look at their last year, they had a good strength of schedule. They had a lot of conference losses, and they got in. Different coach, same result. You can put the Buckeyes and the Hokies under consideration, but as much as it'd be fun to see, well, I'll defer this to Talika. Would it be fun to see the Red Hawks and the Buckeyes play in Dayton? I assume so.
Oh, I'm sure it would be fun to have the Buckeyes in, but I think, as I've said many times before, Ohio State is disqualified after losing on the road to Pitt Panthers, who
Oh, yeah.
have been thrown around as a possible Stallings Award winner. I mean, but if I were to look at other teams, I would also have to look at Joby's other favorite team, and that's VPI, aka Virginia Tech.
I'll tell you what, Salika, you get our last 2 teams in the field here. So would it be Virginia Tech and New Mexico, Virginia Tech and Ohio State, Virginia Tech and somebody else?
Well, let's see. Virginia Tech, I'm going to put them in number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I really wanted to get an under-the-radar team, it wouldn't be Belmont, it would be Akron, but that is not my choice.
Akron's
I'm
good
gonna
too.
say I'm gonna say the Missouri Tigers if I really had to go out on a bit of a limb. They at least have three wins against possible NCAA tournament teams. If you look at Florida and Auburn, and their win at Kentucky starting to look pretty relevant right now. But I think the major anchor that's hanging around Missouri's neck right now, their three losses against teams outside of the field are on the road at Notre Dame, Ole Miss, and LSU.
Well, LSU is a quad one win. Rocco, you just had a chance to see Missouri, am I correct?
Yeah, I was there yesterday. Decent team. I mean, they started both halves really well. Held on for dear life in both halves. Worked out. Got a home win against a non-tournament team. They're right there. Yeah, I think it was really close for me on the final call. But I did have. I'm not going to share who I had the final call with because I actually did have Seton Hall above both. Um,
I hate to say it, but I think you're right after
yeah.
after not that it was a needle moving win, but every win helps at this point.
Xavier
Everyone
made a
else.
huge tactical mistake against Seton Hall. They led them by double digits at the half, which is where the Pirates are most comfortable.
That's it. Marquette let him comfortably at the half both games. Did not win either, but
Yeah, so I have I don't know if you want both teams, Chad.
Yeah, go
but
ahead. Go ahead. Give me both teams.
my last two in are Seton Hall and Santa Clara.
Yeah,
And
I like that pick.
I was like really torn on Santa Clara versus Missouri. It was razor thin, but Santa Clara, it's hard to compare them. Obviously, Missouri's got the road win at Kentucky. They have those three non-tournament losses. Santa Clara's got the quad four loss. But in terms of a lot of the other measurements, because it is very hard to compare, you kind of need the other measurements. Santa Clara nips them out a little bit on the resume side.
All right, well, we got to get a few opinions here because I've heard love for Vatech, for Missouri, for Seton Hall, for New Mexico, for Santa Clara. That's 5 teams. We've got 2 spots. Mike, where would you go?
Mm, let's see.
I'll even help Griggs. I'll take Belmont off this list by giving them the number 47 on the list there as the auto bid winner from the MVC.
Yeah, I think Belmont's a 12. I mean, we're talking about the first 4 here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Who do I have in over Missouri? Hang on. I actually have Ohio State in over Missouri. I mean, it's
Okay, so now all 6 teams are in play for these last 2 spots here.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy.
The correct answers are Santa Clara and New Mexico.
Yeah, and Chad, I have New Mexico above all those teams, just so you
Yeah.
know.
yeah.
I have New Mexico pretty safely in.
Maybe that is maybe unfortunately Griggs is correct. The answer is Santa Clara, New Mexico. Titel, is the answer Santa Clara, New Mexico, not Vatech, Missouri?
I called my good friends at Loyola Chicago, and they said that that is not the correct answer, unfortunately. I cannot, in good conscience, Rocco, put in the Broncos just yet with that quad 6 loss to Loyola. But I really think that Virginia Tech and Missouri might get it due to the injury factor, as Missouri lost its 2 toughest games to Kansas and Illinois without Pierce and Stone. And I believe that the Hokies lost a couple early at Wake, at Stanford, or Stanford at home, at SMU, at Louisville, without Johnson and Lawal for one of them. So again, the injury factor I think will work in their favor, but we'll see.
Who have I not asked about these 2 teams? Everybody I've asked already.
Yeah.
Did I get your opinion, Matt?
I'm New Mexico and Santa Clara also. I think New Mexico, I think, should definitely number 1. I mean, number 40 in the WAB. That I don't think number 40 in the WAB, given look at some of these other ones outside of Mother Miami, number 40 is not being left out for 43, 47, 51, 48,
Okay.
49.
I don't think the
Let's
committee
put it
does.
this way. There's enough love, Joby, for New Mexico getting one of these spots. The other spot here, Vatech, Ohio State, Seton Hall, Santa Clara, Missouri.
Chad, you're just going to have to arbitrate and pick one.
I will. I'll get Joby's opinion on and then I will pick.
Well, I'm in this Virginia Tech Missouri. I would go with Missouri at the end of the day because of the reasons Stalika gave. Between Virginia Tech, Missouri, and Santa Clara, though I like Santa Clara, and Ohio State. I mean, they're all
I
groups.
do not. Why do people
really
like
are.
Ohio State? I hate them. I mean, who likes the Buckeyes? Kyle
Well,
Lamb
this,
is a Buckeyes fan. That's all the more reason to dislike them.
Ooh, ooh, sorry, meant to hit that. Uh, I'm going to go with Missouri. I'll agree with Joby. I was a toss-up between Vatek and Missouri after everything I've heard. Sorry, Rocco. I think Santa Clara is probably the next team up after them.
Yeah, they're definitely in the running.
Yeah, had we not selected Cal, we could have put Missouri or Santa Clara in.
Is there anybody else that,
I've seen all above them both, Chad. So it's all
Okay.
good. It's all very close.
Is there anybody else that that's close that we have not yet discussed?
Can I throw one out?
Sure.
They would have to win out to get there, but and they're going to be the projected CUSA team, but Liberty is very good.
Well, they're
too.
going in the field, Greg, so they're the next team up.
Yeah.
They're an auto bid winner. I'll
They're
finish off
auto
the line.
bid, and they would have still been auto bids. But if you're talking about, I think both Belmont and Liberty it should be looked at by the committee. Whether they will be or not, I don't know. We're not trying. Our committee isn't necessarily trying to guess the real win. I think that those are teams we should be looking at. They're both very good.
I'll put Tulsa in there at number 49, Stephen F. Austin at number 50. A few other teams, Oklahoma State, not that far off. They finally got a Big 12 road win for the first time in about 300 years. So congrats to the Cowboys. Anyone else that's close?
San Diego State.
Yeah,
San Diego State. I'll throw
they're
one
at
other
least
team.
trending in that direction.
I'll throw another team out there. I think it's another A10 team, and I don't think it's George Mason. How far off is VCU from the field right now?
Far.
They've got a similar profile to like a St. Mary's, even honestly, don't they?
Not really.
Their best win is a neutral court Vatek. They have one quad two loss. Honestly, isn't this the same profile?
Actually, it's got to be. I got to admit, it's closer than I thought.
There's a lot more girth. There's a lot more girth in Tier 3, and St. Mary's
Yeah.
performs at a much higher level.
Oh,
They've destroyed a lot of those teams.
I agree. I'd have St. Mary's in over VCU. Absolutely. I don't think VCU is as far off the field, off the pace
Yeah.
as people may think.
A lot of quad 4 for VCU as well.
I guess on that note, let's go ahead and pull up the rest of the field actually next. Lines 13 through the end of the 16 line, which are under the radar teams, which we deal with on Wednesday nights. We got Yale, High Point, Troy, Utah Valley, UNC Wilmington, UC Irvine, North Dakota State, Portland State, Austin Peay, Wright State, UT Martin, Navy, East Tennessee State off their big win over Wofford tonight, LIU, Merrimack, UMBC, Bethune-Cookman, and Rocco. They are still in first place in the MEAC as of right the moment. Maryland Eastern Shore in there at the last spot, even though I think Howard is by far the best team in that conference. But on that note, let's run through each of you for any other final thoughts on anything we did or anything else you want to discuss at all. And Salika, let me start with you.
I definitely want to give a shout out to Mother Miami on one front. Yesterday's game with their win against Northern Illinois, that was, I think, the first sellout they've actually had at Millett Hall. So that eclipsed their previous attendance record, which was 10,634. They're already sold out for their following game against OU, and I think for their following games, there's going to be like a very limited inventory of tickets remaining. So this is definitely a team that's going to be worth watching. But now we start to wonder, could Angry Frank's team at UMass be the first team that finally knocks off Miami? I know they have a tricky game coming up at Buffalo, but the Bulls have been on a bit of a slide themselves.
A tricky non-conference game at Marshall also after that, so don't look past that one either. Matt.
For final thought here is one watching the game last night with St. Mary's and Gonzaga. Man, of all the rivalries going away because of conference realignment, this one quietly hit me more than others. I mean, just watching the retrospective they did with Dave Fleming and Sean Farr, I'm like, I think I was watching every single one of those games. Like, I love this rivalry. And then, I mean, it's one of those the schools, like, this is one, like, I know they could probably play non-conference, but man, like, either St. Mary's go join this new Pac-12 or that, or just like, you got to keep this on the schedule. Because, man, it's a shame that this rivalry might be going away.
Yeah, it is. Joby.
I actually liked what Stalika was talking about in terms when we focused on the MAC. I think we're this year. Let's just look at this. There aren't a lot of bid steal situations. There really aren't. I mean, yes, a team could come up from one of the Power Five conferences that's completely unexpected and win their conference tournament. But the realistic is usually bid steals come from, hey, we got this dominant team, and then they fall. St. Louis definitely would fit that. St. Louis is well inside the bubble. A loss, a couple of losses, they're still going to be inside the bubble. Without a doubt. Besides St. Louis, it's the Akron, Miami of Ohio situation that becomes very interesting in my book. And I look forward to seeing, if Miami can continue this amazing run, because I think personally, if they're going into their tournament undefeated, they're in as an at-large. I just don't see them, even with that awful, awful strength of schedule out of conference of 364. I think they're in. And so then does that open the opportunity to a double bid MAC? And we just might see it. So, I liked your Akron mention, Stalika, because it harkened to that.
I should also add that if this is the championship game in the MAC, that probably sells out Rocket Fieldhouse in Cleveland.
Oh, it absolutely does.
I hope that we get to see that game because I think it'll be a lot of fun. I hope we do.
Mike.
Yeah, just as Joby alluded to, we're in the halfway point of the conference season. So, and now we're at the point where, there's 8 or 9 teams with 0-1 losses. They're very close to being lost. So, now as we, progress along in the season, things are really starting to set place, with the certain teams being locks and now we're going to head toward the second half of the conference schedule and we're going to continue to separate the men from the boys. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I agree. Rocco.
Yeah, I just want to comment on George Mason. They're not even on the board right here, and they're a very interesting case still. Obviously, historically, at 344th non-conference strength of schedule, they would not even be somebody you would want to project in your field, and they probably should still not be due to that. However, we've going one-on-one with some of these committee members. I haven't talked to all of them. They are very heavy, from what I've heard, at least verbally, into the WAB, into these resume metrics. And if that holds true with the voting, you're looking at a team here that's 37, 38, and 42 in the resume, and they've just got 2 road losses. So from the one perspective, like the clean resume, 2 road losses that are very reasonable. Obviously, Rhode Island, you'd prefer not to lose that, but it is on the road. And they've been perfect everywhere else. Obviously, a lot of games left to go. A huge finale with St. Louis. Probably going to fall off a cliff at some point if they play like they did against Rhode Island. But I think it'd be really interesting if we had a scenario like this entering the final week, just because this is a new era of voting and all the tools available to the committee, and the way that they're interpreting the data is not necessarily in conforming with historical norms. And so I would be very curious to see how that would play out with George Mason, especially if they beat St. Louis at home on the final day of the season.
A couple tough road games here at GW, at VCU before they even get there. And they were pretty lousy yesterday at St. Bonaventure too. Rocco needed a big comeback late to find a way to win that game.
Big comeback.
But I agree with you. Titel.
Some of the matchups look very enticing. We could have a 7-10 game with St. Mary's and St. Louis in some Saint-on-Saint crime. We get to see Josh Schertz going against a coach who's made it to 11 tournaments in Randy Bennett to see if coaching matters. 4-5 game. I assume that Joby would be licking his lips for a little Virginia-Texas Tech rematch in a 4-5 game. And of course, the 6th seed is ridiculous. We got Rick Pitino's current team in St. John's, his former national championship team in Kentucky, his other former national championship team in Louisville. Can we sub in Iona for Arkansas to make it a foursome? And then, of course, for my Wildcats, if there's any team I don't want to face in the second round, it's Wisconsin. They scored 103 points against us last year on my birthday. We've had a bad track record against them in March. So anything you can do to avoid that second round matchup, Chad, would be greatly appreciated.
I'll be working on that. Speaking of that, the final bracket will be on the. You can now go ahead and take a look at it. It's down below. We'll be putting that together. Real quick note, Griggs, before I go to you also, there's our final count from the conferences. Interesting, the SEC ended up with 11 teams in the field, the Big Ten with 10, ACC with 9. Big 12 had 6 teams among the top 4 seeds, only got one other team in the rest of the way, UCF. And only other one beyond UCF, we barely mentioned Oklahoma State. So 6 incredible teams in the Big 12 and really a huge fall off. But Greg, you want to finish off the show?
Just a quick observation. I'm not going to pontificate much. It felt like doing the exercise tonight that all, from lines 1 through 7, we were all pretty much on the same page. If there were discrepancies, it was by no more than a seed line and by no more than a few spots. And then, like, once we got to the 8 line, we started disagreeing more. So it seems like the top of the bracket is the top half of the bracket is starting to take shape, and the bottom half still has a lot of discrepancies to work out. And I judge how we do as a committee. I base it on what my own individual seed list is, and the closer it is to my seed list, the better we do. The less it has in common with it, the worse we do.
Okay, that's enough of that. I do want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow night with a Hoops HD report, Wednesday with an Under the Radar, and next week there's a big football game next Sunday. We're going to do an early afternoon show, I believe, but we will be doing a bracket rundown at some point next Sunday. But on behalf of David Griggs, Mike Cha, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, Joby Fortson and John Titel, John Sleek, I'm Matt Sikowski, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.